So obviously there's a debate here, right? Justin or Caleb, make the picks or trade them. You guys know the narrative on both sides. We just got some clarity, though, from Kevin Warren in a recent interview of WGN's Jarrett Payton. There are some things talked about, including last year's haul for the number one pick, the construction of the 85 Bears roster, and the signing of Montez Sweat. And as you remember, trading the top pick to the Carolina Panthers, it wasn't just a swap of picks. The deal turned into DJ Moore, Darnell Wright, Tyreek Stevenson, the number one pick this year, and a 2025 second rounder still to come. We also should be reminded that the first rounder we got from last year, it was number 9. That's what we got back in the trade. So we stayed in the top 10 in the deal. We traded down one spot with Philly and grabbed Wright in that spot. An important thing to remember is that the haul, it included us staying in the top 10. That should also tell us that it's very unlikely that we'd make a deal that leaves us with our first pick outside of that. So let's just not talk anymore about those scenarios of us trading out of the top 10. Warren, he discussed replicating last year's success. Again, remember, replicating, that means following the same path in this draft and how that could help make the Bears contenders. And I'll go to this story on bearswire.com. It's a great source. I want to give credit. So this is what Warren had to say about this. You think of the draft Ryan made last year to get DJ Moore and turn that pick into drafting Darnell Wright and then Stevenson, Warren said. To get those young guys, to get those young guys a chance to play and then trading for Montez Sweat, not only trade for him, but then extend him. If we can replicate back-to-back years, once again, replicate back-to-back years to be really smart about how we handle our draft capital this year, it would just be a really special time for the Chicago Bears. He goes on to say, you look at the 85 Bears, how many individuals in one draft came out of that draft? All those starters. So I'm very cognizant and conscientious that I need to be there to work hand in hand with Ryan, be supportive, challenge a thought process, but make sure that we come out of this draft and this free agent summer going into the year a much better football team. I'm going to check out that draft building, the 85 team he's speaking of in just a few minutes, but let's continue. So what does this tell us? It is right there. And I'm going to talk about that. It's a direct statement about the Bears' current situation, right? The message is that he is for sure in favor of trading the number one pick. This is also paired with this comment about being glad Fields is a Bear. And I'll go through that quote as well. This is about Justin. Justin, he has a rare combination of intelligence, of size, of strength, of speed. Warren continues with, you forget how big of a man he is until you're up on him. He's not a small man. I think just every year he's going to continue to get better. So I'm really glad he's on the Chicago Bears. So we've got outlets screaming, right? They're screaming it's a done deal that Chicago's drafting Caleb Williams, but I fully disagree. It's not settled by a long shot. And I think it's way more likely we're staying pat. Also, those are strong words from Warren, right? He's talking in support of Fields, and on the surface, it seemed to indicate the Bears are leaning towards keeping Fields. I mean, it's only natural. Warren's statement could very well be a strong stance in favor of keeping Fields in Chicago, but let's be fair. It could also serve to drive up the price in a potential trade. There will be no shortage of teams interested in Fields if we choose to offer him in the trade, so let's be fair once again. Let's also look at Fields from the coach's perspective, not ours. This is a staff look here. Flus and company, they have had a 200 philosophy expectation of Fields this year. It wasn't a Flus acronym like his HITS principle. That's hustle, intensity, takeaways, and playing smart. Rather, it was a number, 200. Coach Flus, he wanted Fields' box score to read 200, at least 2 touchdowns, either in the air or on the ground, plus 0 turnovers and 0 sacks. That was the expectation. Fields did absolutely everything the coaches were looking for coming off that hand injury, and the team was rolling. What I'm saying here is from the coaching's perspective, Justin, he did everything they wanted, what they had mapped out for expectations for him, and they do not look at him as a failure or a disappointment. He was fully following their development plan for him. Not mine, not yours, but the Bears' plan for him. He fulfilled it. What he did followed their plan to a T. That's what I'm saying here. You can go back and see if the 200 was perfectly reached, but man, really good work there from the only perspective that matters, the coach in the front office, not the media, not me, not you. This is from the coach and front office perspective. Poles, he also made it clear during his end of the year press conference that he's going to do his due diligence when it comes to evaluating all quarterbacks, right? Both this rookie class and Fields. It certainly sounds like Williams' skill set. It's made an impression on the Bears brass. How could it not? But it's about Williams now, the person, that making a similar impression. And Poles expressed this is vitally important and reports on Caleb as a person. They haven't been glowing honesty, have they? I don't want to assassinate his character. They haven't been glowing reviews, but many times when there's smoke, there's fire. Negative reports on him, they cannot be pure fabrication. They aren't great. This isn't a certainty because obviously Ryan Poles is one who's going to make the call on this in the end, but even Warren talking through this publicly, it looks to be a team effort here at Halas Hall. Warren will be involved in the decision process. And this next quote, it supports that even more. This is more from Warren. We'll work together, but I have great trust, obviously, in Ryan, Ian Cunningham, and all of our scouts. This is that crucial time, and they've already been grinding away on it to be able to come together. I look forward to going to the combine later this month and then getting a chance to spend some time together because we're in a very, very unique space and time in Bears history. So keep in mind, no one knows what the Bears are going to do except the Bears, but this interview just isn't something to discount. I mean, I don't hear any mention of Caleb Williams at all, good or bad. So this is all about three things: replicating what we did last year in the draft, praise of Fields as the guy, and comparisons to the 85 Bears roster construction method. So let's look at that method. I'm my own producer, so just give me a second here. Here, I think we are there. Thank you. Thanks for your patience. So let's look at that construction. It's not apples to apples, but there are some big similarities. And yes, I'm old. I remember the 85 Super Bowl. I'd love to see another one. So let's look at this. In 1982, we drafted our quarterback in Jim McMahon in the first round. That's with the number 5 pick. We had another building block in Dennis Gentry. So that's step one. 83 is the huge draft. We already had our quarterback. I repeat, we already had our quarterback. So this is what we did. Jimbo Cover, Willie Gall, 2 pieces in the first round. Mike Richardson with pick 33. That might as well have been a first. This is what Warren's talking about. Then we also have Dave Duerson, Tom Thayer, Richard Dent. It was the 83 draft class where the Bears struck gold, right? They paved the way for football excellence for years to come. I say that because the team added Pro Bowl and Hall of Fame talent in the very late rounds as well. And their two first round picks that also translated to immediate productivity. And they snatched both Mark Bortz and Richard Dent in the 8th round on top of that. That's just insane. This 83 draft is exactly what Warren's talking about. Yes, I know it was so long ago. Yes, I know the game's changed so much. And yes, we passed on some incredible quarterbacks, but there's something to be said for Warren's reasoning. We had multiple firsts, plus the first pick and the second, and it finished off the team build. To do that, we passed on some insanely good quarterbacks. You can push back on that. That's fully warranted, but look at this team construction. In 84, once again, we already had our quarterback. So for an encore, the 84 draft, it included Sean Gale, Ron Rivera, Wilbur Marshall in the first round. Those are some exceptional players, and the Bears used both a first and a second to select linebackers in that draft. They concentrated on one side of the ball, if that sounds familiar. The 1984 Bears, they made the playoffs that year too, and they are defeated in the NFC Championship game, but the pieces were in place for further domination. And that 85 championship the next year, man, I sometimes wonder how many championships the Bears would have won if McMahon had stayed healthy throughout his career. And if all the players, if they actually wanted to play football instead of just trying to get famous. I mean, that was a huge issue of why that wasn't a dynasty. I'm going to get back on track, though. We had our quarterback in place. He wasn't a Hall of Famer. Although, once again, I would have loved to see once again what McMahon would have done if he stayed healthy. And the groundwork was laid for one of the greatest, if not the greatest team ever constructed. And unfortunately, it wasn't a dynasty as I've talked, but it's hard to argue that it was a poor choice when looking at the broad picture. It is really hard to argue that's a bad team construction. And we're already following a similar path. Although this interview with Warren, it doesn't give us any of insurance, it doesn't give us any insurances. It certainly leaves some breadcrumbs. And that's what I wanted to talk about. And you guys are fantastic. I appreciate you being here. Let's chop it up. And hey, bear down. It's a great off season. See ya.